Okay, it looks like the attendees is slowing down coming in the room. Good afternoon. My name is Chesray and I'm a MEQC reviewer with the Department of Healthcare Policy and Financing. I want to thank you for taking your time to join us in this quick little webinar regarding the MEQC audit and your role in when we request case files. So the presentation should be available in chat. There's a link there, as well as any accessibility tools like captions or translations. There should be in your toolbar. And if you have any questions or comments, if you can put them in the Q&A, and my fellow colleague Gloria and Kim will be able to answer those as we go along. There will also be opportunities to kind of raise your hand and let us know the questions you have out loud. With that being said, this presentation will be recorded, so just want to let you know about that. So next slide, please. So with this webinar, we are going to go over a few things high level wise to get to know the purpose of why MEQC is doing an audit and its federal regulations, as well as the timelines. How are the cases get selected, how you guys get selected as the eligibility sites, and what your responsibilities would be regarding those case file submissions. And then if you're curious also, what happens when we receive those case files. Next slide. So we'll start with the brief overview of the MEQC audit and why we're required to conduct this audit. So MEQC is a federally required program that occurs every 2 years. And it's administered by the department to meet the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So what we do is we review eligibility decisions for accuracy and timely. What we are not, and you may be familiar or have heard of these acronyms before, we're not the PERM program, that payment error rate measurement. That's the federal contractors conducting an audit. And we are not the EQA program. So that's the department within our department, just another team that works with the county incentive program that also conducts case reviews. Next slide. So then we'll continue with a brief overview of the audit timeline. So this is pretty simple. We're going to be reviewing cases from next month, initially starting next month, up until February 2027. So at any point during this time frame, you may receive an email from us for initial case request. And this is going to be kind of on a monthly basis. And then all of the case review findings will be due to CMS by August 1st, 2027. Next slide, please. And we'll continue with a brief overview on the understanding of how cases are selected. So how cases are selected, we are required to review at least 800 cases. They have to be randomly selected from the time frame of January 2026 through December 2026. So it's going to be, again, monthly basis. With that 800 cases, they're broken up into 2 categories. There's going to be 400 active cases, meaning the client was enrolled in medical assistance during that month. And then there's going to be 400 negative cases, meaning that client was going to be either denied or terminated for that review month. And what we're asking of you is, if we come across a case and we're needing the additional documents, kind of like check stubs, new applications, all of that kind of stuff, that you send that to us. And I just want to double check, are there any questions about how that cases are selected?
There's no questions in the Q&A.
Okay. And I do
Looks like
see,
Georgianne has
yes.
her hand raised. Georgianne, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Okay. So when you're talking about the cases, and keep in mind that I am the PE site administrator, um, is it going to be, how many of those 400 is going to be presumptive eligibility? And keep in mind that none of them are active cases.
So what we do is we kind of look backwards in time. So dependent on the action for that said month, so how it's on a monthly basis. So I'll use, for example, January 2026. We're going to get a random sample of cases for January 2026. And it just depends on who, what county that pops in to that random sample. And then also depends on if even a caseworker touched it. So there's a lot of little things that we have to look at first to even determine, do we need case files? If not, we won't even reach out to you, the eligibility sites.
Okay, so my next question is that when a PE worker approves a case or denies a PE case, it immediately closes it the minute they authorize it. So you will never ever see PE at a random selection active because they close immediately after they are authorized.
So then that might possibly end up in our negative universe. So the negative cases.
But
So
it
that's why
wouldn't be a negative case because they're not denied, they're discontinued. So are you going to pull cases still from the discontinued bunch?
it might be, because so we look through the whole hierarchy of the aid codes. So they can either fall into that active or negative case. Like I said, there's a lot of little things that we look at to determine what made that person active or what made that person not active for a said aid code. So
Yeah,
if
so
it's one of those, we'll look through it. We do our due diligence to make sure we're not putting extra work on you guys if we can find the information we need on our end first.
uh, so also I wanted to let you know that PE sites only keeps copies of the applications for audits that I do. The original application goes to the county and to of where they live or an eligibility site.
Mhm.
So my concern is that you're looking at any report you get, it's going to show a case in CBMS for PE, either discontinued, which would mean they were approved, or denied, which then obviously is denied. So um, I just wanted to make sure you understood that because you're saying that anything that is active and none of them will be active. So does it get PE get pulled at all? I guess is
There
my
might be. Again, it's all randomly selected. So based off of whatever we get as our caseload on that monthly basis, it might fall into there. It's also just depends on the aid code. Of course,
right.
like Magi Child is one of the more common ones. So that's kind of the bulk of our aid codes.
Mhm.
So I can't say, no, you won't ever get an email from us because it's not 100% concrete. It just whatever that random sample pulls up with.
Yeah, and we don't have a hierarchy in the current PE world. Um, so I just want to make sure you're aware of all that,
Mhm.
and also make sure that I'm CC'd on everything.
Yes, we have a special note to make sure you are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kelly.
Were there any other questions? Okay, if
Like
not,
Rosa, if you had a question and you want to ask your question, please keep your hand raised. Otherwise, I think you're all set, Cesare.
okay. Oh. All right, we'll just go ahead and move on to the next one. Next slide, please. So understanding the eligibility site responsibilities for that case file submission. So what'll happen is first you'll get sent an email and it's the proof point. So it's an encrypted email. You're going to be sent that just so you can get that login all set up. That way, if you get chosen as eligibility site that we need case files, you won't have to worry about that. And then another thing is before we even request case files, we will look into EDMS to see if all that information is in there. If we can't find it still, then at that point, you will see, you'll get an email that contains a list of the cases that we need case files from. The first email, you will have about 10 business days to submit that request. And with the request, we do want to make sure that we get those on time. And then there might possibly be a secondary email for that same case, just in case we need more information. An example would be I requested one time just the application, and then it turns out there was more case notes later on that said there was certain check stubs that were submitted as well at a later date, and we needed those check stubs. So that's kind of an example of why you would get a secondary email on that same case file. Next slide. So if there's no response to that first email, we will send a second and third, depending on if there's still no response. So that second email will be sent out, and now it'll be providing 5 business days to provide those case files. If there is a third request that goes out, then we will be sending it to your director, as well as the department's county administrator. If for any reason case files aren't able to be located, we would like either in writing or an email from the director or a designee noting that those case files could not be found. And then, so it looks like we have a hand raise. We want to
Thank
get
you.
Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle, you have the floor.
Hi, how do we know who is going to be the recipient of those emails?
We do have a list that we've used previously. And then as well, so when I sent out the link for this meeting, I was making sure to update the list accordingly. I did have some folks say, oh, that person doesn't work here, you need to email these people. And if that's the case for your county, Michelle, we can talk after and
Okay.
make sure I have the right people. And well, for anybody, if you'd like to email me after and say, hey, I want to make sure these certain people are the ones getting the request, that worked perfectly for us.
That would be great because we have had some turnover and are having trouble getting some important emails. So thank you.
Yes. All right. So next slide, please. So this next slide right at the bottom is a screenshot of the list of how we would list the cases that we need case files for. I'm not going to read out through all of them. The one thing I want to point out is the time period part. So with the time period, that is when a certain amount of time we want case documents for. So an example would be if we put the time period from December 2025 to February 2026, we want to make sure that we have anything that was submitted between those 2 dates. Next slide, please. As what we need submitted, again, make sure it's all the documents within that specific time frame. It's not limited to applications, annual renewals, any reported changes, along with all the verifications that come along with those. And then if the case does not belong to you, or you see like actually it's this other site, or if it's under fraud investigation, please let us know. We do try our best to make sure we're sending the request to the right folks. But just let us know if it's not the right area. Next slide, please. And then
Cesare, I'm sorry to interject, but I think there's a couple of questions in Q&A. I just didn't want to go too far past them.
Okay.
So we can get those answered.
Okay. So one of the questions is, what will EDMS county sites process to be provide case files? What will EDMS county sites process to be provide case files?
I'm not sure I understand the
Or
question.
what will EDMS sites who process, what is their process to provide case files?
And maybe Jeff
Okay.
can jump in.
Yes, please.
Okay. He's saying it was already answered, so we're good there.
Okay. The next question is going to be, if the case file was processed by another county, is it our responsibility to get those to you? Or would you have the director designee inform you the case file is in another county?
I believe I answered that. If you can just let us know that it's not your county and what county actually touched the case, and then we would reach out to that county to get those case files.
Okay, the next one is, out of the total number of cases sampled, is there a percentage of those that are processed by RTE, or are all the cases sampled worked by an actual technician? I am curious about how you are ensuring the accuracy of cases processed by real-time eligibility.
So it's a mix of RTE or interfaces or county workers. So it just depends on when it kind of breaks it down into specifically that review month, looking at what made them eligible and who made them eligible. So I don't have a good percentage of you just for you because it is random. But it is just a percentage. And even sometimes, like with the system ones, we won't ask you for case files if it's completely done by a system and triggered, completed. We don't need anything from you at that point.
Okay, next question is, sample case file time period will be based on authorization date or application dates?
It will depend kind of on how I said it might have done by the system or the caseworker. So dependent on what happened will determine what that time period is.
Okay.
Can I just interject and add a couple of things to that? It's just going to depend on the review, what the time period is and what we find to be the action that determined whether the case was active, whether it was negative. So there's definitely going to be more to come on that.
Okay, and then next question is, what about those cases sent to the OPC?
What was the acronym?
OPC.
What is OPC? I guess that's my question.
I'm not sure who asked the question. Could you get on and Overflow Processing Center?
Is that like the mailing, or I'm not sure what that is.
Can you get on and ask your questions? We need more clarification.
So
Raise
here,
your hand.
Oh, here in Archuleta County, were shorthanded for a long time, so we started sending things through the OPC, the Overflow Processing System, which is basically another county who's just doing our medical. So we have to send it in by, I think, like the 10th day they process, send out the verifications, and then they will either authorize it if they have everything they need, or they'll send verifications and the client will bring it back to our county where our technicians will enter it and then authorize. So we have two different counties touching the same case.
Okay. That's something I think we'll have to look into. Because we try to look at who authorized the case, and based off of who authorized the case, if we need those case files, we ask that person.
And what
Okay.
county the person lives in.
Mhm.
But we'll find a definitive answer and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There are no more questions.
Okay. And then so we left off here how to send those case files in. So there are a few different ways. We do want to always ensure we are submitting these case files securely. And if needed, mark them appropriately as confidential. Our preferred way is if you can just email them to us, but I know that's sometimes not an option. So you do have the option to mail or fax them. And within that case file request email that we send to you, there will be the contact information for you to send it back to us. Okay. And then next slide. Understanding what happens after the case file submission from the eligibility sites. So what we'll do is we'll use that information to review the eligibility determination for accuracy and timeliness. Then, as mentioned before, if there are any errors found, any issues, then we'll go ahead and send them to our internal team, the audit research team, and they're going to review and respond. I do want to let you know before you're like, whoa, what do you mean? Not all the cases will end up with art. The ones that do, even at that time, again, depending on if it was done by a system or a technician, art may reach out to get some additional information from you. But again, that's all dependent on that initial situation of what made the what and who made the eligibility determination. And then once we complete all of our case reviews, we send that final report of our findings to CMS. Are there any questions on how to submit or what happens when we finish up with the case reviews?
Yes, I have one question here. Do you send these findings to the counties at all?
No. So MEQC will not send these findings out. These are more for CMS because they are requiring to see these findings. I guess that's what makes us different than EQA, the other program that works with the county incentives, because they are the ones that do send to the counties.
Okay. We have another question here. Do we get penalized at all for these at the county level?
On that one, let's see. Kim, can you help me out on this one?
We don't have any definitive answer for that. As far as we know right now, no. But to kind of add on a little bit to what Chessery was saying about the error, when the errors are found, what's going to happen, best case scenario, is that the errors are going to be identified and they're going to be, hopefully they're going to be corrected, but we're still in the process of determining what all of that is going to look like and how it ties in as far as the county incentives, or if it does. So, I hate to say more to come on that, but I don't want to give you information that's not accurate. So that's what we know right now, but you'll definitely receive communication on the final decisions regarding those. So,
Okay.
and it looks like, yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell me what CMO stands for?
Yes, is the Centers of Medicaid or Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Thank you. And then the next question is, does MEQC determine our perm rate? Or is that the other quality team that you mentioned is for the county incentives?
We do not determine any of those error rates.
Yeah, that's the completely separate function.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Next slide, Kelly. Next one. So with the link of the presentation, this is our contact information for emails. Again, my name is Cesare. Gloria was helping out with Q&A. Kimberly is actually our supervisor, and then Q is our manager. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us after this webinar, if anything else pops up into your head. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon. There's no more questions.
Thank you. Let us know if you have anything that you need further clarification on. If not, thanks for joining and everybody have a great day. Oh,
I do
there's
have
a
one
question apparently.
that just popped in. It says, just to confirm, this audit is for the applications we have submitted to HCPA for patients to qualify for Medicare or Medicaid, sorry.
So it's Medicaid and CHIP programs. And it's not just normal, no, I'm sorry, it's not just initial applications. It can be renewals or any reported changes from the client or interfaces that we get.
Okay, Michelle would like to confirm their contact information.
And Michelle, if you go ahead, Chesri.
I'll email you after, Michelle. That way we can make sure we're on the same page.
Okay, next question is, will you be sending us the recording?
Yes.
Okay. Next question is, each one of us will get 400 audits?
No. So with this federal audit, we are required to, MEQC is required to review 800 cases, and that's broken up into active, who the clients have Medicaid, or negative, that they were either denied or terminated, and where their cases are randomly sampled. So you may not even hear from us the whole year if your case was, or if your eligibility site wasn't pulled into that random sample, or you may hear from us once, or you may hear from us every month. So it just depends on our findings and what we need to review that case for accuracy and timeliness.
So the sampling is going to occur across all 64 counties, not just one county or 10 counties in particular. It's a random statewide sampling to total 800 cases, 400 active, 400 negative. Does that answer your question?
Okay, I don't have anything. I don't have any further questions.
Great. All righty.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.